Tonight, in the United States, roughly 12 million adults over the age of 60 will swallow a magnesium pill before bed. They'll do it because they read it helps with sleep, or with leg cramps, or with restless legs that won't settle, or with the anxious thoughts that won't quiet at 3 in the morning when the house is silent and the clock just keeps ticking. And by tomorrow morning, somewhere between 80 and 96% of what they swallowed will have left their body without ever reaching the cells that needed it. That's not an opinion. That's the absorption math. If you're one of those 12 million, the problem isn't that you need more magnesium. The problem isn't that your body has stopped responding. The problem is that you're taking it in a way the human body was never built to use. And nobody told you, because the bottle doesn't have room for the truth. And the appointment didn't have time for it either. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through the 4 things almost every adult over 60 is doing wrong with magnesium. We're going to look at each one. We're going to look at why it feels like the right thing to do, because none of these mistakes are stupid. They all have a reason. And then we're going to look at exactly why each one fails, biologically, inside your gut, before you even feel sleepy. This is the kind of explanation your last appointment did not have 15 minutes for. The system makes its money in 15-minute appointments. Let me give you the hour it actually takes. Mistake number 1. The form on the bottle. Walk into any pharmacy, any grocery store, any membership warehouse. Pick up the cheapest magnesium pill on the shelf. Turn it over. Look at the supplement facts panel, the small print under the dose. 9 times out of 10, you're going to see 2 words. Magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is the cheapest form of magnesium to manufacture. It's also the form your body can do the least with. There's a study published in the year 2003 in the journal Magnesium Research by Walker and colleagues that compared 4 common forms of magnesium head to head. Magnesium oxide came in at the bottom, bioavailability of roughly 4%. 4%. Out of every 100 milligrams of oxide you swallow, your body sees about 4. The rest moves through your gut and leaves. The other forms in that study, magnesium citrate, magnesium amino acid chelate, magnesium glycinate, landed somewhere between 5 and 10 times higher. Glycinate, in particular, is bound to the amino acid glycine. Glycine is something the body actively transports across the gut wall. The magnesium hitches a ride on a transporter that's already moving. That's the entire trick. The form determines whether the magnesium has a vehicle or whether it's hitchhiking with no thumb out. So the first question to ask is not how much magnesium am I taking? The first question is, what form is it bound to? Because the form determines whether you're feeding your cells or feeding your toilet. Here's why this mistake is so common. The bottle says 1,000 milligrams. People do the math. 1,000 sounds like a lot. The recommended daily intake for adults over 50 is somewhere around 400 milligrams. So they assume they're taking more than enough. But 4% of 1,000 is 40. You're taking 40 milligrams of usable magnesium. That's under half of what you need. And you're paying for the other 960 milligrams to walk through your gut and out the other side. The dose on the label is not the dose in your blood. It never was. Mistake number 2, the timing. Most people take their magnesium at one of 2 moments, either with breakfast washed down with coffee, alongside a multivitamin, sometimes a calcium pill, or a calcium-fortified yogurt, or right before bed with a glass of warm milk, or after a late dinner that had cheese in it, or on top of a blood pressure medication. Every one of those combinations is fighting itself. Calcium and magnesium use overlapping transporters in the small intestine. When you take them together in large doses, they compete for the same doorway. Whichever one has more molecules at the door wins, and the other one waits, and most of what's waiting eventually moves on without ever entering. In most American supplement combinations, calcium is dosed 3 to 4 times higher than magnesium. The calcium wins, the magnesium leaves. Coffee and tea contain tannins and polyphenols. These bind to mineral ions in your gut and form complexes that your body cannot absorb. If you wash a magnesium pill down with coffee, you're not absorbing a pill. You're absorbing a coffee magnesium complex that your gut treats as fiber. It passes straight through. And then there's the medication problem, which is the bigger one for many adults over 60. If you're on a proton pump inhibitor, that's the class of acid-blocking drugs sold under names like omeprazole, esomeprazole, pantoprazole, lansoprazole. And a handful of others, you have a different problem entirely. In the year 2011, the United States Food and Drug Administration issued a formal safety communication. The communication came after multiple documented cases of dangerously low magnesium levels in patients who had been taking these acid-blocking drugs for more than a year. The mechanism is straightforward. Magnesium needs stomach acid to be ionized before it can be absorbed. Block the acid, and you block the ionization. Block the ionization, and the magnesium can't get past the gut wall. This is not a small group. Estimates put long-term proton pump inhibitor use at over 15 million American adults. A large portion of them are over 60. Many were started on these drugs for a short course years ago, heartburn, an ulcer, a stomach scare, and were never taken off. The prescription kept renewing itself. And quietly, year after year, their magnesium absorption was being cut. None of this is on the warning label that comes with your supplement bottle. The bottle says, "Take with food." That's it. Food, in the modern American diet, frequently means calcium-fortified food. So people follow the bottle, take their magnesium with cereal that has calcium added, wash it down with coffee, and assume they've done it right. They've actually done it wrong 3 times in one sip. Mistake number 3, the single dose. Here is where most people lose the most magnesium. They take one big pill once a day, one 500 milligram pill, or one 400 milligram pill, in a single shot at bedtime. Your gut cannot absorb magnesium that way. Magnesium enters your bloodstream through specific channels in the wall of your small intestine. 2 of these channels have names TRPM6 and TRPM7. Don't worry about remembering those. What matters is what they are. They are narrow turnstiles. Picture the entrance to a stadium with a single revolving door, the kind that lets one person in at a time, slowly, with a click. That's your magnesium transporter. It works at its own pace. It cannot be sped up by pressure. It cannot be widened by demand. Now picture 500 people showing up at that revolving door at exactly the same moment, all of them pushing forward. The first dozen get through. The next 30 stand at the door waiting. The rest pile up behind, give up, and walk away to find another exit. That's exactly what happens inside your small intestine when you swallow a 500 milligram dose of magnesium in one shot. Your transporters saturate. They process roughly 100 to 150 milligrams in any given absorption window. The rest moves on down your gut into your colon, where magnesium has a different effect altogether. It pulls water with it as it goes. Which is exactly why so many people who try high-dose magnesium end up with loose stools and never feel any of the calming benefits they were promised. The dose was too big for the door. The fix is not heroic. The fix is splitting the dose. Half in the morning, half in the evening. Or smaller still, a third with each meal. Smaller doses, more often, through transporters that aren't overwhelmed. The total amount of magnesium that reaches your blood from 3 100 milligram doses is dramatically higher than from one 300 milligram dose. That's not a marketing claim. That's how saturable transport works. This is the rule for almost every mineral your body absorbs through these narrow channels. Iron works this way. Zinc works this way. Magnesium works this way. The big single dose is a habit borrowed from medications, many of which are designed for one-a-day pharmacokinetics and applied incorrectly to minerals, which were never engineered for that delivery. If you've made it this far and you're already recognizing yourself in one of these, if you're nodding because you take your magnesium with your coffee, or because the bottle in your kitchen cabinet right now says oxide on it, or because you've been swallowing one big pill every night for years, you and I both know your last appointment did not sound like this. If you want more of this kind of explanation, subscribe and hit the like button. That's the whole engine. That's how the next video reaches more people. Mistake number 4. The cofactors that aren't there. Magnesium doesn't work alone inside your cells. It works alongside 3 partners: vitamin B6, vitamin D, and dietary protein. Take away any one of them. And even the magnesium that did manage to get absorbed has trouble doing its actual job. Start with vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 acts as an escort. Once magnesium reaches your bloodstream, it still needs to cross from the blood into the inside of your cells, the place where it actually performs its work. B6 helps it cross that final membrane. A review published in the year 2017 in the journal Nutrients laid this out in detail. The conclusion was direct. B6 deficiency reduces intracellular magnesium, even when the blood test for magnesium looks normal. This is why so many people get told by their doctor that their magnesium is fine when the lab comes back. They still have leg cramps. They still wake up at 3 in the morning. They still feel the tightness in the back of their calves at the end of a long day. The blood test measures magnesium in the blood. It does not measure magnesium inside the muscle cells, and what's inside the cells depends on the B6 escort. Low B6 common in adults over 65, especially those on certain blood pressure medications, leaves the magnesium stranded in the bloodstream, unable to enter the tissue that needs it. Now, vitamin D. There's a body of research, much of it from the past decade, suggesting that low vitamin D impairs magnesium absorption in the gut and reduces the activity of the enzymes that put magnesium to work once it's in your cells. The Cleveland Clinic and the National Institutes of Health both acknowledge this interaction in their public materials. The two nutrients are not independent, they are partners. Low vitamin D in an older adult is the rule, not the exception, especially through the winter months in the northern half of the country, where sunlight is thin and skin synthesis drops. Whatever magnesium you take while vitamin D is low is working at a fraction of its potential. And then protein. This one surprises people. The transporter channels we talked about, the narrow turnstiles in your gut wall, they are themselves proteins. If your overall dietary protein intake is low, which is extraordinarily common in adults over 65, your gut wall has fewer of those transporters to begin with. The door isn't just narrow, there are fewer doors. You can take all the magnesium you want. The architecture isn't there to absorb it. This is one of the silent reasons aging shrinks nutrient absorption across the board. People over 65 eat less protein than they did at 40. Their gut wall has fewer transporters. The same pill that worked at 50 doesn't work at 70, and they conclude their body has betrayed them. The body hasn't betrayed anyone. It's just been underfed protein for 15 years, and the doors are thinner. So look at the 4 mistakes together. Wrong form, wrong timing, wrong dose split, missing cofactors. Most people taking magnesium for sleep, for cramps, or for those anxious early morning awakenings are making 3 of those 4 mistakes simultaneously. Some are making all 4. And then they conclude that magnesium doesn't work for them, and they stop. Or more commonly, they double the dose, which just floods the saturated turnstile harder. They get looser stools. They don't get any more usable mineral. The arithmetic, end to end, looks something like this. Start with 500 milligrams of magnesium oxide. Apply 4% bioavailability, that's 20 milligrams of magnesium reaching your blood. Take it with calcium-fortified food and coffee, and cut that roughly in half, that's 10. Take it as one big dose, and saturate your transporters that drops it again. Be low on B6, low on vitamin D, low on protein, and what makes it into the cells where it actually does work is closer to 0 than to any meaningful number. That's where the 96% figure comes from. It's not a marketing number. It's what the layered losses look like once you account for form, timing, dose, and cofactors. Some of what you swallow leaves your gut unabsorbed. Some never makes it past competing minerals. Some that does get into the blood doesn't reach the cells. By the time you total it all up, you've paid for a pill and absorbed almost nothing. Now let's build the correct model. Information before instruction. Always. The correct mental picture is this. Magnesium absorption is a slow, narrow, escorted process. Slow meaning your body wants it in small portions, not heroic doses. Narrow meaning specific transporters with limited throughput, the same narrow revolving door we talked about. Escorted meaning it needs partners to enter your cells and do its work. A protocol that respects all 3 of those facts looks completely different from what most people are doing. Here is the protocol the science supports. As always, talk this through with your own clinician before changing anything, especially if you take prescription medications, especially if you have kidney issues, and especially if you're on heart or blood pressure drugs. First, switch the form. The forms that consistently show better absorption in published studies are magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, magnesium malate, and magnesium L-threonate. Glycinate is gentle on the gut and tends to feel calming. Citrate has a mild laxative effect that some people find useful when constipation is also part of the picture. Malate is sometimes favored by people dealing with muscle fatigue. L-threonate has emerging research around brain penetration, but it's the most expensive option. The cheapest of the good forms is usually citrate. The form to avoid as your only source is oxide. Second, fix the timing. Take magnesium away from calcium-rich meals, away from coffee, away from strong tea. A reasonable rule is at least 1 hour of separation. If you take a calcium supplement or a multivitamin with significant calcium in it, put your magnesium at a completely different time of day from that one. If you're on a proton pump inhibitor, this is a conversation to have with the prescriber who started you on it. Many people on these drugs were put on them for a short course and never reassessed. A periodic review is reasonable. Do not stop the medication on your own. Third, split the dose. If your target is 300 to 400 milligrams of usable magnesium per day, split that into at least 2 doses. One in the morning, one in the evening is the simplest version. With meals, but not the meal that has your calcium-fortified yogurt or your morning coffee. Mid-morning and mid-afternoon are often the best windows. Fourth, take care of the cofactors. Get your vitamin D level checked if you haven't recently. The National Institutes of Health considers anything below 20 nanograms per milliliter deficient, and a large portion of adults over 60 test below that, especially through the winter. Make sure your diet includes B6, which shows up in salmon, chicken, potatoes, chickpeas, bananas, and fortified cereals. And do not neglect protein. The current research suggests adults over 65 do well with around 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, which is meaningfully higher than what most people in this age range are actually eating. Protein-rich meals also support the transporter machinery that absorbs magnesium in the first place. Here's the rough timeline of what to expect when you do this correctly. Week 1 for many people. This is when the most stubborn nighttime leg cramps start easing. Not because magnesium cures anything, but because the cells that contract your calf muscles finally have enough of the mineral they were missing. Some people notice they're falling asleep faster within the first 3 or 4 nights. Others notice that their stools become more regular if they switch to citrate. Week 2 through 4, this is where the deeper changes show up. Adults who were getting up 2 or 3 times a night to use the bathroom sometimes notice they're getting up only once. Sleep feels less fragile. The anxious 3 a.m. waking eases for some people, though not for all. If migraines were part of your picture, frequency often drops. In this window, there's research from the journal Headache going back over a decade, documenting this effect. Beyond 4 weeks, anything that hasn't responded by now is unlikely to be a magnesium issue, and that's important to hear honestly. Magnesium is not a universal answer. If you've done the protocol correctly for 6 weeks and nothing has changed, the problem you were trying to solve is probably not magnesium related. And that's the cue to look elsewhere rather than keep raising the dose. Now, the warning signs. There are situations where what looks like a magnesium problem is actually something else, and where waiting on a supplement is the wrong move. If you have new or worsening muscle weakness, not stiffness, not cramps, but real weakness, the kind where you cannot lift something you could lift last week that needs a medical evaluation, not a supplement. If you have an irregular heartbeat, palpitations, or fluttering, you can feel in your chest, especially if you're already on diuretics, blood pressure, medications, or heart medications that needs evaluation. Low magnesium can cause this. So can high magnesium, if your kidneys aren't filtering well. Both situations require a blood test and a clinician, not guesswork at the supplement aisle. If you have known kidney disease, do not increase your magnesium intake without your nephrologist signing off first. Damaged kidneys cannot clear excess magnesium the way healthy kidneys can, and the consequences can become serious quickly. If you take prescription medication, especially heart medications, blood pressure medications, diuretics, antibiotics, or thyroid medications, talk to your pharmacist or your doctor before adding magnesium. Magnesium interacts with more medications than most people realize. And finally, if you ever experience confusion, severe drowsiness, or weakness combined with low blood pressure, that's an emergency room conversation, not a YouTube one. Tell me your age in the comments below. Are you in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s? The absorption math actually shifts in each of those decades. Older guts have fewer transporters, Kidneys clear differently. The protocol I just walked you through gets fine-tuned differently for each decade, and I want to know who I'm writing for. Drop your age below and tell me which of these four mistakes you've been making. I read every comment. The story of magnesium is the story of almost every nutrient in modern life. The amount on the label is not the amount in your cells. What matters is the form, the timing, the dose, and the partners. Get those four things right, and a magnesium pill stops being something that runs through you. It becomes something that actually feeds you. If you watched this far, you already understand more about absorption than the average person who's been buying these pills for 10 years. That's the whole point of this channel, giving you the explanation the appointment didn't have time for. I'll see you in the next one.